Once upon a time, in a forest of rotting crab-apple trees and quaking aspens that were dying of Parkinson's disease, there lived a nasty magician named Snogdrod the Pedant. Snogdrod wore thick horn-rimmed glasses and lived in a house made out of stolen bed slats. The shingles were old schoolbook covers, and the inside of the house was covered, walls, ceilings, and floors, with blackboards, noisy, screeching blackboards that take hours to erase. The evil Snogdrod would sit in this miserable house all day long, covered from head to foot with chalk dust, working out logical problems. Since a road ran for some boring reason right past his shack, Snogdrod would wait until someone passed by. Then he would pop out and start an argument with the unsuspecting victim. The passerby might be, say, a cookie cutter, and would usually know little or nothing about the art of logic. Snogdrod would slowly, insidiously, draw the poor person into a logical thicket until the victim was nodding rhythmically and Snogdrod was writing and erasing and rewriting madly on his little portable blackboard. At some point in the dialectical process, Snogdrod would turn with a ghastly grin that looked like the ragged hole in the top of a badly opened beer can, and he would say,
"Well, if A, therefore B."
"Right."
"And if B, then certainly C."
"Right."
"Then,"
here Snogdrod's voice would begin to rise in pitch,
"if C, why in the name of heaven not D?"
"No reason why not." Here the victim usually smiled blandly.
"Well then, I don't suppose you'd have any half-witted, foolish, dopey, oafish objection to the inescapable conclusion that D implies E, would you?"
"None at all." At this point, Snogdrod's voice would get very snarky and mysterious, and he rubbed his hands together so hard that they burned like anything.
"Well then, I would imagine that even you, with your chocolate pudding brain, could not fail to see that E, when considered in the light of A, the angle of the solar ecliptic, B, your shoe size, 15EE, C, the fact that Jupiter, Saturn, and Topaz Minor are in trine, terse, bisextile, and yearly returns amounting to over $600 million, and D, the number of Americans killed in highway accidents. E, as I say, in the light, as it were, all of these proves that you do not exist."
At this point, the victim would give a little cry that usually sounded like air escaping from a leaky valve on an automobile tire, and then he would vanish with a pop, leaving behind nothing but the faint odor of foot powder. Some of Snogdrod's victims, those with unusually strong wills or those who were not entirely convinced by his argument, did not entirely vanish. But a more horrid fate awaited them, for they became his slaves and were called the Flimsies. The Flimsies usually took the shape of old linen napkins, stained with gravy and cranberry juice. On nights when the moon was a lost pale pizza floating above the quivering treetops, midnight travelers in the forest would see the Flimsies floating by like giant spotted butterflies on unspeakable errands. These ghostly creatures would often slip into doorways at night and try to smother the sleeping people. Many a villager would wake suddenly in the purple velour darkness, his nostrils full of the odour of brown gravy and cranberries, and know that a flimsy had gotten in. Snogdrod and his evil works flourished for many disgusting years, and most travellers who ventured into the flapping forest, as it was known, were not seen again. But one day, when the sun was like a milk bottle cap that had unaccountably gone covered with tinfoil, a kindly old sorcerer named Sir Bertram Crabtree Gore, Esquire, wandered into the haunted wood. He listened to the fizzing of the bees and the gentle rasping of the sapsucker, and watched the honeyed sunlight as it dripped from innumerable palsied branches. Eventually, wearied by a day of walking, he sat down in the shade of a crabapple tree, which grew by the side of a tiny, turgid stream that seemed to be saying "Uggle-guggle" as it teased the fudgy banks and caressed the rock-like boulders which lay in its path. Sir Bertram contemplated the crabapple tree and regretted its rottenness, for this tree was the chief symbol on his coat of arms. He carried a copy of his pedigree around with him, and as he pulled it out of his carpet bag, he saw the words, "For arms he wears a crabapple tree displayed, and fructant on a field of gore counterfaced with grum. The roots of the tree are clutchant, grasp a toad, couchant vert, who mumbles an armed-leg door. Mors sine calore." This curious escutcheon dated from the siege of Grizzly Grange in 982, when Sir Bertram's ancestor Crankforth had to defend the castle with 12 men and a cellar full of crabapple preserves that his grandmother had put up. The resourceful Crankforth heated the preserves and flung the boiling sludge from the catapults into the faces of the besiegers. A giant toad, attracted by the smell of the jam, came out of a nearby forest and gobbled up the tasty army. The Siege of Grizzly Grange. Sir Bertram read the tale of the siege often, because it gave him strength to go on, and he read it now, sitting under his ancestral tree. He had just begun to read it for the 4th time, when a voice behind him, an irritating nail-file voice, said, "Have you ever thought that you might not exist?" Sir Bertram answered without turning around,
"Yeah, I have thought so, but when I do, I throw myself down stairwells till the feeling goes away."
It was Snogdrod, of course, all done up in his best wizard outfit, a mauve plush affair covered with moons and stars and square root signs. Above him floated a cloud of chalk dust. "A witty reply," said Snogdrod hastily, "but basically a shallow one. If, on one hand, you would like to prove yourself something other than a bubblehead tiddly, I will argue with you."
"Oh, very well," said Bertram, as he did up the snaps on his carpet bag. "But I must have a day or so to think. Existence is such an important matter. Essentially, actually. Why don't you go trisect a donut till I'm ready?"
Snogdrod laughed, but his laughter was like lead washers being dropped down a stall through a grate.
You fool! Do you think my head is filled with kapok? Do you think that you could just dawdle away?
Now his voice was ominous, like a soapy water drizzling from an overflowing bathtub. He raised his scraggy arm and roared,
"Flimsies, attend me! Diaphanous sprites of the upper air! Arise for a putrid bog and meshy fen! Slither through quackgrass and prickly pear! Arise!"
At this a rubbery black cloud appeared overhead, sparkling with fake neon lightning, and then, to the tinny sound of unseen mandolins, the flimsies came flitting through the wood. They hung round Sir Bertram like dish rags on an invisible clothesline.
See?
Cried Snogdrod, and his beard crackled with delight.
These are my filmy servants. If you fail to return in 24 hours, they will be a winding sheet.
Snogdrod vanished in a peal of maniacal laughter, which is impressive if you have not seen it done before.
"Well,"
said Sir Bertram to the expectant flimsies,
"if you folks don't mind, I think I'll go visit some friends of mine."
The flimsies, after hurried consultation, nodded, but whether they nodded yes or no, few could say. At any rate, they faded imperceptibly into the forest, and soon Sir Bertram was clumping along on a road that wound over lumpy hill and pocky dale like a strand of yellow taffy. Eventually he came to the Hagway, a road that seemed much longer than it was because it wound through country vaguely reminiscent of northern Indiana. Sir Bertram had been on the Hagway before, and now he set out on the grueling journey, walking with his eyes closed and trying to remember who had invented logarithm tables. It might be supposed that Sir Bertram, using this method, would eventually stray off the road. This was in fact what happened, and he was some time in climbing out of a muddy roadside culvert. Finally, though, around midnight, he saw a crag rising authoritatively out of the cornfield. Atop it stood Jarnell House, a crumbling fortress, which hung perilously over the abyss below, and occasionally dropped pieces of itself into the ravine. One light was burning in the great central tower of the hall, and out of the half-opened casement window roaring organ music trickled. Sir Bertram immediately recognized the piece as booked to Hugh's festival fanfare for organ, timpani, and toothpaste cannon. Soon he stood under the toothless but frowning portico, and he pulled the bell rope with just enough force to break the rotting beam that supported the rusty carillon. The bells fell into unimaginable gulfs beneath the castle, and soon the door was opened by a short man in a shedding mohair ulster.
"Good evening,"
said Sir Bertram deferentially.
"I wonder if, when Muriel Brainerd became mistress of Shagcroft Manor, she little thought that she would be fighting for her life in its smelly basements." "Huh?"
The man looked irritated.
"I said, when Edna Clusterdug divorced Miles Gunderson to marry Alistair Waycrest,
She little thought that the curse of its deadfall abbey would have her tearing her hair out on its disintegrating battlements.
That's what I thought you said,
muttered Sir Bertram.
May I come in?
I suppose so. Would you like a glass of bayberry wine?
Sir Bertram followed the man into the kitchen, where the two of them put away enough bayberry wine to turn most people into Xmas candles. With an effort, Sir Bertram broke the layer of paraffin that had begun to coat his tongue, and spoke.
Where can I get a Shuffly?
A Shuffly what?
Screamed the man, who now began to roll about on the uneven tile floor.
Please,
said Sir Bertram in a hurt tone.
I am threatened with non-existence.
So are we all from time to time,
said the man, burping, and he fell asleep. When the little man awoke, he found himself alone in the bottle-strewn kitchen. But from the tower came organ music, tedious organ music. Sir Bertram was playing Telemann's 400 variations on the equilateral triangle, originally scored for cembalo, glass beads, and augmented ratchet. The man raced up the tower steps, but the door to the organ room was locked.
Come out!
Screamed the man.
That is the worst needle music I ever heard.
And I've got 386 variations to go,
said Sir Bertram.
Where did you ever find a ratchet stop?
All right,
shrieked the man as he began to claw little grooves into the door.
There's a Shuffly 3 miles down the road in a swamp. Tell him Buzzard Cranepool sent you.
Why should I tell him that?
Asked Sir Bertram as he opened the door.
It's as good a name as any,
said the little man.
And if you told him I sent you, he'd probably bite your head off.
So it came to pass that on the very next day, when the twilight was beginning to seep out of the corners of the landscape, Sir Bertram was seen heading back toward the flapping forest. Folks could not tell for sure, but to many it looked as if he was being followed by a haystack. Now, when the kindly old man and his mysterious companion got to Snogdrod's house, they found the vile logician hissing and frothing in anticipation. He had washed all his blackboards, and he had practised up by browbeating flowers and outwitting badgers. Now he sat outside in a dirty striped lawn chair, next to a huge blackboard that was lit by a piece of rotting wood.
Well,
rasped Snogdrod in his crankiest tone.
You took long enough. And where did you get the portable slag heap?
He's no slag heap,
said Sir Bertram.
He's a Shuffly, or Scufflin's hirstitus. They live in fens and eat mayflies, bulrush hearts, and linen napkins. You should have seen the other one he gobbled back on the road there.
He ate a flimsy?
Screamed Snogdrod. An odor of chaos, like the smell of burning trash, filled the air. Long strands of linen, like tattered banners, fluttered from the Shuffly's mouth.
All right, Shuffly,
gritted Snogdrod.
Justify your existence. Proposition A might be phrased thus.
He paused and turned to Sir Bertram.
Can this overstuffed beer barrel think?
If you mean the Shuffly, yes, he can think,
said Bertram, lighting a rum-smoked cigar.
But I couldn't tell you what he's thinking about at the moment.
Wanna play?
said the Shuffly.
What?
Muttered Snogdrod, and his eyes narrowed so that he appeared to be peering out of two flabby mailbox slots.
Proposition A when considered in the light of certain geophysical peculiarities, leads to...
"Wanna play?" said the Shuffly louder. The Shuffly lurched forward on his feet, clad in brown bathroom slippers, grabbed the startled Snodrod, and rolled him into a ball.
"Bouncy, bouncy, bounce,"
said the Shuffly as he dribbled the wizard on the footpath. Snodrod raged as well as he was able to, but the Shuffly threw him over the house and ran to the other side to catch him. When the Shuffly got there, the Snodrod had unrolled himself and was standing there glowering, his forehead creased with the lines of legal trickery.
"Now, you shaggy hell of loudishness,"
he snarled.
"hear my dread voice and tremble like the trees. Your oversized tomb is gaping for you."
Snodrod's eyes rolled upward with an audible click, and he began to chant in a voice full of vibrato.
"Per ignatioto elenchi, per argumentum ad hominem, post hoc ergo propter hoc, barbar accelerante dari feroc, by the square of opposition, guardian of the undistributed middle, and the sevenfold veil of sophistry, appear!"
Suddenly the air got colder, and a black cloud appeared. The black cloud that you saw before, since Snodrod was, at bottom, a cheapskate. Only this time the cloud looked like an overdone hamburger, and it hovered low over the Shuffly's head. A faint whirring began, and it arose till the noise was like that of a badly adjusted metal lathe. From the cloud roared a blizzard of irrelevant facts, and it swirled around the inert creature till he looked like a spiny snowball. Then Snodrod's devious machine spread under the Shuffly's unsuspecting feet, a glistening patina of generalization, and the immobilized hulk slid down the hill into the valley below, ricocheting off trees with a sound like wet sponges being slapped on kitchen sinks. Snodrod turned to Sir Bertram and sneered, and his sneer was like the high sea of a bamboo calliope.
"Well, who's next?"
Sir Bertram went on drawing pictures of the Patriarch of Alexandria on Snodrod's outdoor blackboard. After a measured pause, he spoke.
"I think he is next."
"He? Who's he?"
Snodrod felt the delicate touch of vinyl tendrils on his shoulder.
"Fun,"
said the Shuffly, as he grabbed the wizard by the beard and whirled him round and round. When the Shuffly let go, centrifugal force carried Snodrod in the direction of his own house, where his flying body easily broke the cheap Aisling window and came to rest in a bowl containing batter for some eggless, milkless, spiceless cake he was making. When Snodrod eventually emerged from the house, he was so angry that the batter which evenly coated his horny frame was turning to a rich golden brown. He brushed aside a dollop of goo that hung before his eyes and lifted his cakey arms to the heavens.
"Flimsies, take this mobile tumor and hurl him into the deepest and most labyrinthine bog that festers on the surface of the earth."
There arose a sound like 10,000 bazookies, and from the 4 known points of the compass, Flimsies came rustling, turning the night into a gravy-stained wonder of whiteness. The flimsies wrapped themselves about the Shuffly, and the great flimsy was the size of a bedsheet or a 50 million lira note, turned into a balloon which Snogdrad filled from a tank marked metaphysical speculations. Borne upward by thoughts beyond his reach, the Shuffly floated over the forest till his dark bulk was no more than a muddy asterisk against the moon.
Well,
Fluted Snogdrad. His teeth made a sound like a 1916 Underwood.
Wait a couple minutes,
Said Sir Bertram, as an inscrutable smile crept across his face. And so they waited. After several minutes had slithered by unnoticed, they saw a misshapen shadow blotching the sky. The spectral shape grew, and it soon presented to the trained eye the outline of a 1912 Haynes Atkinson structureless inflatable biplane, which the Shuffly had nimbly fashioned from the now docile flimsies.
Rat-tat-tat,
said the Shuffly as he buzzed to the house prior to crash landing in Snogdrad's leek garden. As the Shuffly crawled out of the tattered linen wreckage, Snogdrad once again summoned the cloud of unknowing, as it was called. Warily it dragged its latex bulk over the treetops, like a ruptured blimp or an overused literary device. When it arrived, it spewed at the Shuffly false conclusions and unproved propositions, which danced on the creature's furry bulk in green gouts of St. Elmo's fire. Incongruencies and hasty assumptions leaped at the Shuffly in sheets of red lightning, and a crackly Victrola voice began reciting the first Catalinian oration. While the great creature stood dazed, Snogdrad raced into the house and came out with a cardboard box labeled Rhetorical Ornaments. These proved to be a long strand of tinsel and coloured popcorn, which Snogdrad wrapped around and around the inert body of the Shuffly. When the cranky legomancer had finished his work, he stepped back to consider his tinsel-snared prisoner. He was about to order the cloud of unknowing to descend and obliterate the Shuffly, when he noticed that one of the creature's eyes was blinking like a railroad signal. Snogdrad came closer and poked the Shuffly in the stomach with a piece of chalk.
Are you winking at me, you miserable lump?
He rasped.
You're cute,
said the Shuffly, and he drop-kicked the wizard into a logical cleft stick that was standing in the backyard. Then the Shuffly turned to Snogdrad into a kite and flew him on a string of popcorn. After a few hours, when the wind dropped, the wizard dropped too, through many twitching aspen branches, and landed at the feet of Sir Bertram, who was throwing erasers in the air and batting them with a blackboard.
Why are you doing that?
Panted Snogdrad. His voice was round with empty speculation, but in the background was an ominous crackle as of unseen candy bar wrappers.
What with a little time that we have betwixt cradle and grave, what else is there to do?
Said Sir Bertram philosophically.
We toss the dusty erasers of old questions into the air and try to bat 'em with solid answers.
But why not oranges or melons? The many-chambered tangerine of thought. How about that?
Your thoughts do not strike me as particularly chambered,
said Sir Bertram with a vaporous chuckle.
No, I suppose not,
muttered Snogdrod.
but it is, how shall I say, calibrated. In fact, I'd like to tell you a little secret.
all right?
Said Sir Bertram.
As long as you don't slobber wetly in my ear.
Not at all, hissed Snogdrod as he leaned closer. His breath was like a broken gas main. The secret is that I am a slide rule. You've probably been wondering why my thought is so blindingly precise. Well, I am calibrated to the tiniest fraction of a degree. My thoughts have been verified by the U.S. Bureau of Standards. Sir Bertram looked unmoved.
There are little white spaces between the lines on a slide rule. What about them?
Snogdrod looked down and began to work his belt back and forth through its buckle.
Well, let's see. Pi times the radius squared. No, they're closed on Sundays from 3 to 6. White spaces. Flimsies are white spaces. Yes, of course. They cover the spaces. But...
Now his voice was uncertain, like a BB rolling around in a tank.
But how did he eat the flimsy?
He didn't,
said Sir Bertram calmly.
He ate a napkin. It's a sin the way people leave things around.
A fire like the light of burning grease was in Snogdrod's dilated pupils.
Ah, that would explain it. Ah, ah, ah.
Before the mildly horrified eyes of Sir Bertram and the Shuffly, Snogdrod began to change. His head became a glass bell jar. His lower limbs were covered with cheap dark varnish, and he, in short, turned into a stock ticker on a very ugly Victorian stand. Sir Bertram examined the serpentine tape that coiled from the frantically whirring machine, but all he saw at first was the number 3, followed by some random digits, which he took to be an inept attempt to work out all the places of pi. Occasionally a phrase like seems to indicate the light of, or nor can we suppose from this evident that, would appear, along with periodic statement from the Sailors and Planters Bank of Dresden, Utah. Sir Bertram could not find any way of shutting the machine off, so he and the Shuffly went out to an all-night tavern that served bulrush beer and napkins in wine sauce. In case you are interested, all the people that Snogdrod had transformed found themselves standing in the road outside his house the next morning. By a curious coincidence, they were the very people whose bed slats he had stolen. So they tore down the house and took the blackboards home to their children, who probably used them as sleds. The